All right.
It's
This
kind of
is welcome to a comic show. I'm Aaron, and I'm in a comic shop, and I brought my lifelong friend Kat here, who we bonded over Ninja Turtles early on in our friendship, and ever since it's been something that's been part of our life. Every time there's a new iteration, we consume it. We just love Ninja Turtles. Kat has had previous contact with Eastman. I met Eastman at North Carolina Comic Con, just the last one. Stacy, who was his handler, said, "Hey, Aaron, come over here. I'm about to do the signing with him." And I was like, "Oh, cool." So I just hung out, and I didn't fanboy out. I wasn't weird. I totally
Aaron.
wasn't weird. So got to meet
Kevin,
like one of my. If he doesn't remember, I probably wasn't weird.
It's a good sign.
No, it's funny. Well, nice. Well, first of all, awesome to be joining you guys, and this is a treat, and good to see you all again. It's just we're Zooming now instead of meeting in line or meeting at a convention, I think, which I know we all dearly miss, and I can't wait till we get back out there.
Yeah.
To be live and in person once again. But it's a treat to be joining you, and thank you for your support all these years. That's why I have such an awesome job, is because I have such great fans. So thank you. It's great to be here.
Cool.
Great to have you. So to follow Aaron's introduction, I love being a turtle. Kevin and I have talked quite a few times. Mutation is a way of life for me. So it's always a pleasure to talk with him. And each time I do, I think of like in the interim, there's always different questions that bubble up, because the Turtles is such a deep well or storm drain of mystery and science fantasy. So lately, Kevin, I've been thinking about all the different iterations of the Turtles and how interesting a time it must have been, that transitional phase, as you were stepping away from the indie comics and exploring developing them as an action figure and then eventually a cartoon show, not knowing what was going to happen, and having to look at your stories and characters through that different light. And also then working with so many outside forces like Fred Wolf Studios and Playmates and so forth. So I was wondering if you could take us to that point in time and explore what you and Pete were going through with the Turtles' first mutation from their original form.
Sure, that's a good question, because it's interesting as a process, because a lot of people would ask, well, you obviously designed it to be a major toy line and cartoon show and all these things, which just was the furthest point from the truth. But it was very organic, and I think that's what made it interesting, is not only that the idea started out to be a comic book that we were very passionate about, that we really liked, and that was our dream, was to, and it still is, to write and draw comic books for both Peter and I. And so when it started getting attention from other areas in entertainment, we sort of shrugged it off, or looked at it sort of like, well, we can't make that leap from this black and white comic book to a Saturday morning cartoon show or toy line. But we also knew how blessed we were, that a lot of artists that came before us, the giants we stand on the shoulders of, the guys that inspired us to draw, didn't have that kind of control over their characters. So we knew that if we wanted to pursue this idea, then we could choose to or choose not to. And so as we took baby steps and went through it, it was really well, this is kind of cool, and we had full control. So we had full say over what the designs looked like, what the story would look like, what we wanted to, how our characters we wanted to be portrayed. And we were a little cocky because again, we really didn't see it making that leap into that other world. And so we held our ground. And so things that they said, well, we really have to change this and we have to change that. And we were like, no, we don't. And we're not going to. But we were able to do things like that made sense to us, like, changing the bandanas, which was a big thing, the bandana colors, which was actually Pete's idea. It made total sense to us. I mean, we had them all with red bandanas because all the original comics were black and white. So you couldn't really tell who they were besides their weapons and how they were talking anyway. So it was very natural, very organic in that, as we went through each milestone from producing just the first 5 animated shows that ran between Christmas 1987 through to the end of that school year, that school vacation period, to the introduction of the toys in around June of 1988. It was, Hail Mary, like, well, if kids like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. It's been a great experiment. So, and just a short 36 years later, here we are talking about what a journey. But it was very organic. It was very natural how it evolved. So,
were you and Pete the ones who were writing like the pitch Bibles or documents for the other studios to take a hold of, or were they like looking at your material and then sending things to you?
No, exactly. We had full approval of, again, the Bibles, the treatments, even the final scripts that David Wise and writer Patty Howarth were working on for the first 5, and then what ended up being the first 13 once we evolved. But yeah, everything was based on, because, well, by that time we had drawn the first 11 issues plus all the one shots. So we probably had 15, 16 issues, and then of material available, as well as the role-playing games, which had a whole slew of the supporting characters that evolved into Bebop and Rocksteady and those things. So they were mining all the material that had been developed and sending us ideas of a more kid-friendly version that we got to approve. So
I got Rocksteady.
Yeah,
it's pretty big.
I liked it when they made the larger action figures too. They're awesome.
Yeah, with those rotocats, they're nice. I had a follow-up question, kind of that. I don't even care if I'm plugging Toys That Made Us. That episode made me literally cry. Made me literally cry. Really good. Like I was watching it with my kids and my wife. Like they were passively watching it, kind of. And I'm all into it. It's in the living room. I'm watching it, and when it was you and Peter, you and Pete together for the first time in that scene, and just that your reactions and me seeing you guys together when you were such childhood heroes of mine. I just loved Turtles. I wanted to be a teenager. I love Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. So obviously ninjas were great. Mutants are great because those are the X-Men. I love the X-Men too. So you guys were like, and I had a pet turtle. So I mean, like, you guys were like the pinnacle of everything cool for like me in the mid 80s, like everything cool. And then to see you guys, I literally bawled like a baby watching that. But anyway, that's why I don't mind giving them a free plug. But the thing is, I had a question. You and Peter bonded over Jack Kirby originally, and then you had that one like ultimatum sticking point that you had to have final creative control. Was that partially because of how you both felt Kirby was treated by? I mean, we don't have to say Marvel, but Marvel.
Well, it's a couple things. One is just case in point on the Toys That Made Us, and not to take away any moment or anything you got out of it, because a lot of people really reacted to it wonderfully and emotionally. But it's funny, I always say that when people ask me what I thought of the Toys That Made Us, and I say, well, the issue that I had with it were numerous, but one of them was, for example, when the opening of Toys That Made Us starts, it says that I was born in Springvale, Maine. I do not know where Springvale, Maine is. It's funny because that was the first question the interviewer asked me. He goes, "So it says in your biography that you're born in Springvale, Maine," and I said, "No, it's funny. I was not. I tried to change it on Wikipedia a few times, and they booted me off because I changed it so much. I was not born in Springvale, Maine." And so that was the first question they asked in the first part of the interview. So the whole segment opens up with Kevin Eastman from Springvale, Maine. So I just want to say that one particular instance, you should run that concept of inaccuracies all the way through that entire scenario, including the fact that Peter and I had filmed together several times on a documentary called Turtle Power, which, if you saw that 2014, 2015, we actually did this really wonderful segment. We were standing on the vacant lot of where we actually created the Turtles, 28 Union Street, Dover, New Hampshire. The house had since been demolished, and it was just a vacant lot. But Pete and I kept in touch regularly, and it was, so the fact that, I had not been to Mirage Studios in a number of years, but it's fine. But I thought that they portrayed some of my friends in that series, like John Handy, who created, he worked for Playmates Toys, all the Bebop and Rocksteady, the toys you're holding up, he created them. They made it sound like in the documentary that he created two things and he was booted and they brought some other guy in. John was there for years, and there was a bunch of other goofy stuff. But that aside, it's like if you want to see a fully accurate, really awesome documentary, true to life, true to fact, watch Turtle Power. Find it; it's out there. It's streaming somewhere. But to your second question, specifically, spot on. Jack Kirby existed from his very young age, his interest in the field of comic books. The business was work for hire. So a lot of all these studios, Eisner, Iger, and Simon and Joe Simon and Jack Kirby Studios, and all these guys that were working, developing ideas, it was all work for hire. So the company you were working for, just as how they did things back in those days, they owned everything. So if your characters went on to become, multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar in the case of where we are today, and these franchises owned by Marvel, DC, and so many others, a lot of the guys that originally created them, just because that's the way the business was, didn't profit from them. And so we were very aware of that, and we were part of a number of different petitions and things to try to get Jack Kirby's artwork back and get him treated, get him, royalties and a pension built off on characters that he created. So we knew exactly how lucky we were. So, and that was a thing that we were already selling enough comic books to pay our rent and eat, and we were living the dream. We were drawing comic books every day, and that was really when the dream came true. So when we went into these other areas, we were not going to let anybody have any control over the turtles that we didn't have approval over first. So we thank Jack Kirby for that, for sure.
I deeply admire everything that you and Pete did in the creation of Mirage and the team that you built of other creators operating the Ninja Turtles IP and doing it yourselves, because the wild freeform creativity that the Turtles represent could never have been fostered under a corporate overlord. That's just an impossibility. Now, and now I assume it really only continues to thrive because of what you build independently. So the Turtles are inseparable from that spirit. So how you gonna overly corporatize that without losing everything? But I was curious what your feelings are in regards to creators who might find themselves in similar situations where there's an opportunity to sell out, or not in terms of a punk rock sellout, but to cash in and to allow their IPs to have ownership from a larger conglomerate. Because to my mind, that's something that everyone should always be actively fighting against, because I don't think it seems counterintuitive to the creativity that is afforded to people who are independent.
No, you're 1,000,000% correct, and that is, and it's funny that we did Peter and I and Dave Sim and Steve Bissett, Rick Veach, numerous other creators in the late '80s, early '90s. We created what we call the Creators Bill of Rights, which was it was a very short document, and it was just one of those things that Dave Sim, who was one of the inspirations for even Peter and I to self-publish, like other underground cartoonists, we put out this document that said, look, we're not telling you what you should do and what you should not do, but what you should be aware of is your rights. And so if you choose, somebody approaches you and says, we're going to make cartoons and movies and whatever, but we want to control all the rights, you can fight that. And if it come to the point where you either do it and take a chance, go to Vegas and roll those dice and see if it actually works as a concept, or you stand your ground and say no. But either way, you were informed and you got to choose. You got to choose for yourself, your person, what you could do, what you could not do. And so that was something that I look at the way the Turtles entered the business through toys and cartoons and movies through separate deals. It was something that we controlled. Each one, it was individual. We made those choices. And because of that, nobody could do that kind of deal afterwards. Like, for example, we all heard of, George Lucas back in the day of making the trade-off and saying, well, you can control those rights and all rights. Just give me the merchandising. I'll take all the merchandising rights. And, the head of the studio at that time gave him all his merchandising rights, which was far more profitable than anything he ever made off the movie. And I think the head of the studio was fired not long after. And since then, that Lucas deal or the Turtle deal, those kinds of deals have never been able to be made sense because the studios really need to have that control. So it's a very, very, very challenging time for creators, especially independent. There's also a lot of opportunities, through self-publishing, through crowdfunding. I went back to David Avalone and I self-published with Ben Bishop. We self-published the Drawing Blood series, which is set in the world of comics through crowdfunding. And what an amazing gift. It's much like when I borrowed money from my Uncle Quentin for Pete and I to publish the first issue of the Turtles. We ended up with full control and ownership of that creation. So you have that opportunity. But then it's like, if it becomes popular and becomes successful, or you just fulfill the dream of becoming a cartoonist and continue to tell these awesome stories. If you are approached to sell it, then these days, if you're going into a corporate situation, there's not many options. You're going to ask to turn over everything, and that's a bummer. With some exceptions, it's tough to stay independent these days, especially if you're going to cross over into a larger world of entertainment. It's pretty tough. So.
In regards to The Last Ronin, that story has been on the shelf for a long time. I was curious what state it was in when you rediscovered it, and like what prompted rediscovering it or dusting it off to begin with.
It was really an amazing thing that from what I recall, when Peter and I worked on that story, developed that story back in 1987, it was at the time we had finished, the first 11 issues plus the character one-shots. And so we had finished a big story arc, and we sort of like going like, well, where do we go next? And I think one of us spit out the idea, say, well, let's look 30 years down the road and see where they end up. So at that time it was 2017. And then we can sort of say, well, that's where they're going to end up. And then we can sort of loosely navigate a path in that direction. Similarly, when we were doing the IDW Turtle Universe series, we were heading towards issue 100. This was sort of late 2018, heading, because issue 100 came out in December 2019. And we were working towards issue 100, and Tom and I had a lot of conversations of, well, where do we go next? And I said, well, it's funny, 30 years ago, and actually at that time it was 32 years ago, I said, Pete and I had this idea, why don't we look down the road? And let me pull this story up, because I'd made notes on it a few times over the years. And I said, let's take a hard look at it and see if it makes sense to adapt it into an opportunity that we could tell a story 20, 25 years in the future of kind of our Dark Knight kind of, futuristic, story. And that was the seed. So it was an outline of about almost 20 pages, basic beginning, middle, and end, character development notes, a lot of concept stuff. So we sort of adapted those and started to stay true to all those bits and pieces and put them into the story, although we did expand it into a much longer, it's 5 issues, 40 pages each. And we're actually even doing the issues, if you've seen issue 1, we're doing it slightly oversized and then longer 40-page format as a tip of the hat to the old Mirage series and stuff. So, but yeah, it was solidly, there's enough solid pieces there, but we definitely took it much further and fleshed it out as a more detailed story to fill 200 pages.
Yeah.
What a treat. We're having so much fun with the series.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, the oversized stuff, it fits in a golden age size comic bag, which I need to know because, I own a comic book store and I sell it to people that want to bag theirs up. But man, this felt like, I was a kid again, and someone mashed up Ronin and Dark Knight Returns with the Ninja Turtles. It was like Dark Turtle Returns. And I just loved it. I just loved like everything about it. And I was, my favorite turtle was Raph, always has been, whatever. He always has been. I like all of them, but Raph's my favorite. And I was convinced going into it. Oh, should we say spoiler that, it's been out forever? We're talking about it. Okay, we'll put a spoiler image on here when we make this live. So, and then you see the R in the back, and duh, of course it's for Ronin. But I was like, oh yeah, it's definitely going to be Raph. This is going to be cool. And I'm reading it. And it's reading kind of like Raph, like, because it's, and then I was frigging floored. I was floored at the end And I read the whole thing again. And I was like, oh man, I should have seen this coming. Like, why would Raph be so much in all this like kind of guilt? He's angsty, but I mean, I don't know. Like, it's just genius. That's genius on your guys' part, to make it like, okay, it's like the post-apocalyptic party dude. You know, like this is like what would Michelangelo be like in there? And that was why did you pick him? And was that what you originally had planned?
Yeah, no, it was. It's interesting because even Michelangelo's like before he was even named Michelangelo, the first turtle drawn was Michelangelo, and it was so firstborn, and as well as as a storytelling. I don't know if they call it device because it's not that. It's because of where we wanted to take the character and how we wanted to evolve his story arc and how important it is, because it is really, even though the outline that we wrote was in 1987, it's firmly rooted in the very first issue of the Turtles, because when you look at issue 1, it's a complete story. It's 40 pages and it's got a beginning, middle, and end where Splinter, found, evolved and mutated with his 4 sons and trained them for 15 years to, seek vengeance on his enemy, Oroku Saki. So that's the basis of every turtle iteration since issue 1. And that's the most important part of what we're trying to tell here. And the choice of Michelangelo was, again, it was first, not only because firstborn, but also you already love him. You already think that you're already emotionally tuned into Michelangelo as a character because he's kind of the last person you'd expect to be sort of evolve into such a character that has to be so mean that he's going to this dark place to complete this mission that started 36 years ago, and so you're already emotionally there from issue 1. Even I've had a few people say, well, why did you reveal it was Michelangelo at the end of issue 1? Why didn't you wait and keep the fans going crazy for another couple issues? And I said, no, that we certainly could have, and we talked about it a couple times, but I felt like once you were in at the end of issue 1 that it was Mikey, and you knew, like, holy hell, how did this all fall into place to have this arrive at this time and space and place to tell the story? We had you, and that's we wanted you to be tuned in and want to follow that story and see how it evolves. And man, it's it's tough because we're working, Tom and I've we've outlined all 5 issues, of course, and we're nearing the completion of issue 2, and but each issue is going to be that intense. There'll be stuff in each issue you go, what? So in a good way, I hope, but or not a good way. I don't know. It's a tough story, and it's a deep story, and it's a dark story, and but yeah, you're gonna be. Hopefully, you like it as much as we're having fun doing it. So it's pretty well.
I mean, it's been a phenomenon. I mean, this cover, man, that is easily the best cover. I mean, come on, like that is beautiful.
Well, yeah. I always say I stole everything in my career from Jack Kirby and Frank Miller, so that's my Dark Knight homage to the lightning bolt, and
right.
Frank, appreciate it.
I was picking up what you're putting down. So with this, that's kind of what I thought it was. It's the future Dark Knight Returns type version of your original Turtles, because some customers asking like, where's old lady Jenica? I'm like, no, it's not the IDW Turtles. This is like their original Turtles. But and you don't have to confirm or deny that. I'm just saying that's my head canon. But just wanted to get out there. If people are watching this video and couldn't get it because it sold out everywhere, there was allocation, there's all kinds of craziness going on with it. The second print comes out on December 9th. So we will have plenty of second prints. Stores will have plenty of second prints. Get it. You'll have plenty of time before issue 2 comes out. Currently, that's slated for January 27th. So maybe it'll ship then, maybe not. But whenever it comes out, I'm going to drop everything the second it comes out of that box. I'm just going to sit down on the floor like a little kid, at the corner market reading it, just reading it. And, because I never knew if my mom was going to actually buy a comic for me or not. So on that spinner rack, I just have to read as many as I could in there. And then like, if you're going to buy me one, okay, buy it. I love this one, but I didn't get to read this one. And then I was like, oh, that one sucked. I should have got the one that I really liked. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm just pitching that this book was phenomenal. And if you're a fan of Ninja Turtles and you were shut out, you didn't want to pay the extra prices, things were going crazy on eBay and speculator market and whatnot, never fear, a second print is on its way, and it's December 9th. So that's very, very, very soon.
Well, thank you for all those kind words. And it really was, we were hopeful that it would have a nice response, but it was, so far beyond whatever we hoped for and whatever we imagined. The response has been overwhelming, and we do, and even Tom and I have, anytime we've had a chance to communicate to these blogs or interviews and that kind of thing for about the series, we feel bad that much like the rest of the world, the 2020 has been an interesting year and a difficult and a challenging year to get anything done, and to keep we continue to worry about our comic stores and our proprietors and the people that reach, without our comic shops and our fans that are able to find the material, and we want to support them and support us. Without them, we're all doomed. But we appreciate everybody waiting, and we had actually hoped to get issue 2 out at the end of December, but it was one of those, we just had to switch artists, and there was a bunch of internal stuff that we needed to address. And so we just want to make sure the issues come out right. So we should be, once it comes out in January, issue 2 in January, we'll be on our bi-monthly schedule. So we don't want you to wait any more than you have to. And we appreciate the love and support so far. But man, it's been pretty mind-blowing, and thanks for the support.
For sure.
Yeah, man.
And of course, people should be aware that your personal website has all kinds of cool stuff on there, including Drawing Blood Volume 1 and Drawing Blood Volume 2 is on the way. Any other Kevin Eastman projects in the wings that we should know about?
No, but thanks for bringing it. I always forget because I talk too much and I'm like, what? But no, Kevin Eastman Studios, for anything that we're doing, is the best place to go for latest news and bits and things. We're always coming up with something interesting to talk about, or fan art, or stuff that we're doing, or selling over there. But we are working through the second volume of Drawing Blood, which we're super excited to be wrapping that up. Ben Bishop and Troy Little, as always, have done a fantastic job, and that series is going to be, it's so much fun. It's so different than anything else. So sometimes when as I'm working on my pages for Drawing Blood, at the same time I'm working on the Last Ronin, so it's going from like flipping from page to page. It's pretty dramatic, and it's your headspace. But thanks. But yeah, Kevin Eastman Studios is the place to find out anything that we're doing. So thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, it's a great email newsletter too. So if anyone wants to sign up for that email newsletter. I love getting that. Open it up, beautiful art, fun action figures. Just that's a great site, great newsletter. And I wanted to ask one more question. Like, of course, that has to be like Casey Jones' daughter, right? Like, why would this character be yelling out Jones? Like, that's not. And obviously, she had some type of emotional reaction to seeing a Ninja Turtle. And then the cover of issue 3 has Casey Jones' mask on a katana. What the heck, man? Is Casey Jones gonna be in issue 3?
We'll have to see. He might be in issue 2 as well. No, that was part of the fun of issue 1 is that again, and thanks to IDW and Nickelodeon, they've really given Tom and I and the whole art team, the creative team, almost carte blanche for. They said, look, this is your story, and don't go too nuts. But have as much fun as you want. So we've been pushing it. So there's a lot of Easter eggs and little things that we sort of planted, and you'll see that in almost every issue. Everything will all come together in issue 5, but you'll see bits and pieces of how it all comes together. We don't want to tell you everything right out of the starting gate. So,
right. You're doing a good job of teasing it. You guys are definitely doing a good job.
you're gonna dig issue
Kevin,
2, that's for sure. Well,
thank you so much for taking this time with us.
Oh my goodness, yes. No, it's a, and I was gonna say that, I know we had this much time, and it's like, we're bouncing around doing a million things, we all are, but yeah, let's circle back in a couple months. You let me, after issue 2 comes out, why don't we circle back and you let me know how we're doing, and
Heck yes, that'd be
carry on
amazing.
from there.
Right
Awesome.
on, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we're going to try to sell the hell out of the second print and issue 2. So there's that.
Thank you. Well, thanks, guys. Well, this has been great. It's really great talking to you. And again, I hope you and yours are all doing well and they're healthy and safe. And, I really just want to say again, much like the rest of us, not getting out there, not being able to see you all like Courtney and I are used to doing the conventions. We miss you all dearly, very dearly. But we know that the safer you are, the sooner we can all be out there again to hang with you all, because that's really such a precious thing for us. And so we look forward to it. And otherwise, have an absolutely wonderful holiday season. What's today, Cyber Monday? What? No. So have a good holiday. And yeah, let's talk again in the new year and discuss issue 2.
Sounds great,
Heck yes.
man. Thank you.